Diabetes is entirely preventable. Anybody listening to this, you can actually prevent chronic diseases from happening. All these artificial sweeteners or even natural sweeteners like stevia, what are they doing? They are telling your brain it's...
If you think of diabetes as, sugar in your blood, little tiny crystals, they're sharp. So they affect the smallest blood vessels of your body first. The brain, the eyes, the kidneys.
It's a slow, sweet killer, If you don't pay attention, it's going to kill you from inside with the sweetness. But here, when you go on a plant-based diet, we say that sweetness actually returns. You can have mangoes when you reverse your diabetes.
People look for protein only in animal foods. It cannot be denied, but one can't be reckless of overhyping protein. That's going to help on a diabetic.
So if you think I'll work for 2 hours in gym and my diabetes will go away, it's not going to happen. You have to eat the foods which are anatomically and physiologically right for you.
Okay, think of a gulab jamun. You thought of a gulab jamun?
Yeah.
You spiked insulin.
What?
You spiked...
Just by thinking about it?
Yes, just by thinking about of a sweetener, you spiked insulin. You don't want insulin spikes now. Forget the sugar.
Most people think diabetes is just about sugar, that it's genetic, that it's for life. But what if none of that is true? What if I told you that you were looking at diabetes all wrong and also maybe unknowingly walking right into it? India is the diabetes capital of the world. 1 in 3 urban Indians is pre-diabetic. India has over 212 million people that suffer with diabetes. But here's the truth. Type 2 diabetes is not just manageable, it's reversible. Today we're sitting with 4 experts who've reversed diabetes for thousands using food as medicine without the use of drugs. If you're struggling with diabetes, you're pre-diabetic, or even just worried about your daily sugar levels, this episode will save your life. Let's jump right into it. I want to start off by asking each one of you, why should anyone listening to this care about diabetes? If they think it's an old people problem or no one in my family has diabetes, why should I be worried about it? Why should I listen? Why should I care? How is this relevant for anyone listening to this today, knowing that India is the diabetes capital of the world?
Hi, I'm Dr. Rupa Shah. I'm a lifestyle medicine consultant. I'm practicing for more than 42 years now. So, looking at the numbers these days, we realize that numbers are increasing at a very rapid pace, and India is becoming the diabetes capital of the world. So, if you think you're not going to get it, that's not true. If you think that you are following all the rules of diet and you will escape, no. You think you are doing lots of exercise and you're fit. I have seen people who are going to the gym yet getting the diabetes. There are people who are yoga masters yet they get diabetes. There are people who can't manage the stress levels and their digestive power is very low and maybe there's extra weight. They ignore it and then they are in the line for diabetes. Almost it's in every household, someone or other is getting diabetes. It's not necessarily genetic. Maybe nobody in your family had. You're the first one. It's going to happen. Starts very early. Everyone should be aware about it because it begins with what is on your plate. What are you choosing to eat? What are you choosing to buy from the supermarket? The answer is in what you eat, what you buy, and what it becomes in your body. So I would say that pay attention. It's here. You could be the one. And what I have discovered is that food is the first medicine. Before any prescription, you must pay attention to the very cause of your diabetes, the very cause of all the lifestyle-related diseases like obesity, thyroid, PCOD, diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, high cholesterol. Don't take 6 different medicines and think that you manage the disease. Look at the root. Find out the reason why it happens and then start your journey. I've already helped many people go on this path, reverse their diseases, and live a very healthy, disease-free life. So it's not about reversing, it's also about prevention.
Hi, I'm Ajoy Prabhu. I'm actually a research pathologist by background, which basically not a clinical pathologist, but my background is in looking at diseases to see exactly what the cause of the disease is. So that's my background. I was primarily I'm more on the research end of things. So I was at pretty much worked and studied in the United States 30 odd years. And at the peak of my career in the US, I was at the White House with the Obama administration for 8 years. I also headed the NIH, FDA, and CDC's all of the inventions and technologies that were going out to the um, private enterprises like pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies. So that's my background. But then, along with my wife, who will be introducing herself shortly, we decided that to go into the clinical side because we noticed there was a plethora of data saying you can reverse chronic diseases and why not do it. And we went on this, I changed gears and went on, to start to help people reverse their chronic disease conditions. Yeah. Um, Primarily what lands up happening these days is it's not like 20, 30, 40 years ago when diabetes was not as prevalent. It's mainly because if you think about 40, 50 years ago, what people used to eat, how they used to live their lifestyle was quite different than now. They did not have iPads, they did not have iPhones, they were walking more, they were interacting with people more. I think that they had more friends, joint families were there. So all these things factor in. Nowadays, you're more isolated. We are stuck to our devices. I've not even started talking about the food part. I mean, like the food is the number one, two, and three culprit, right? So, looking at processed, actually starting with dairy, number one. Number two is processed, highly ultra processed food, which is, designed by food scientists to get you hooked, which was not the case 50 years ago. 50 years ago, we didn't have food scientists designing your, whatever the heck you opened up a little chips ka packet and taken it out. That was not there, not non-existent, right? And the third, of course, is meat. And within the meat itself, highly processed meats is even worse. So all these factors, you're in it. You see your friends and all eating it, and say, I'm quite healthy. Nothing will happen to me. But eventually, it's like a slow snowball effect. You add some of these things to yourself, and one fine day you suddenly realize, oh my God, I'm pre-diabetic, and before you know it, you're already going down the slope of having high blood sugar and insulin spikes and stuff like that. So uh, that's just our general environment. It's the world over. It's become like that. Um, so yeah, I think you need to pay attention to not just diabetes. I mean, of course, we talk a lot about like 16 to 18 other chronic diseases that can be reversed, but type 2 diabetes 100% reversible. I mean, there is no questions asked.
So it's not that just because I have diabetes, I have to live with it for the rest of my life.
Right,
There's no-
absolutely, absolutely. Yep. We've had many cases, patients that we've reversed diabetes on, and they're leading a very healthy life. I think I always want to quote this. At that time he was 88-year-old gentleman that came to us. He must be like 94, 93, 94 now, hopefully. And after 30 years of having diabetes, today he has no diabetes, not a sign of diabetes, not even pre-diabetes. It's completely reversed. He said, "You tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it." He did it, and then he came to thank us. I said, "Why are you thanking us? We didn't do anything. We just told you what you're supposed to do, and he did it." So yeah, it's absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Jenny Prabhu. I trained in the U.S. As a doctor in two specialties, one in pediatrics. The other is called internal medicine, which is the study of, to make a long story short, the study of the specifics of organ systems. So endocrinology is diabetes, cardiology, high blood pressure, infertility, PCOD. I could go on. So I'm lucky enough to take care of people from age 0 to 100 plus. So diabetes is unfortunately becoming a disease that we see not just in adults and in elderly people anymore. I've unfortunately diagnosed type 2 diabetes, which is the one that is acquired and mostly lifestyle related in toddlers in the United States, not here yet. Hopefully that won't happen. So We like to think of it as a silent disease. You can have diabetes and prediabetes smoldering for years, even decades. And unfortunately, it's something that attacks every organ system in your body, from the eyes to the kidneys, to the reproductive organs, to the legs, etc. So it is something you need to worry about because we're seeing it in children and young adults and teenagers earlier and earlier. It's not something that can be ignored. And like Dr. Rupa and Ajoy have mentioned, there's so many factors. It's not, the candy bars you're eating are too much fruit, which is a whole other issue that we'll talk about. It's certainly not that. It's the stress of, everyday life. It's being isolated. It's eating processed food and animal products, and it builds up over time. Something that we're very passionate about is something called preventative medicine, which I think really needs to be pushed all over the world. You don't just treat a disease when you have it, you prevent it from happening. Or if you have the disease, you prevent it from getting worse and you reverse it. So going to your doctor every 3 months, 6 months, once a year, and getting blood tests, getting a physical exam, and making sure that you're okay and you'll continue to be okay and you won't turn into your parents and grandparents taking 50 medications a day is super important, and it should be something that we're all taught from day one. So hopefully that will happen in the future.
Hi everyone, I'm Kajal Bhatia. I'm a plant-based nutritionist and have been practicing this form of nutrition since the past 20 years. It sounds magical when I started my journey. Of course, being a nutritionist, chancing about plant-based as a way of life that is possible, especially to reverse diabetes and manage blood sugars. I've been treating people all along, jumped into a certified diabetes educator program, and today it's much easier for me. Why is it relevant to younger people and especially all age groups today? Because when I started my studies, right, type 2 diabetes, that's often talked about in India, type 1 is up to 30, and once you're type 2, it's only after 30 that it's called that. And most people feel that, hey, that's not going to happen to me even if I'm not type 1. But type 2, primarily the age, just like all the doctors here who I work with have shared, that the age factor has tremendously dropped even for type 2 diabetes in India. You see much more younger patients, and me consulting at corporates earlier on in my practice, I noticed that the age group, especially for technology companies and all, whether there's a younger age group, the pre-diabetic condition was much initial. Something as young as 20, 21. Most of the people would put it to stress related to corporate life, but that's not the case. It's essentially a physiological issue, both with the food and the body, and we'll talk about it, but definitely relevant to all age groups in India today.
Sugar not the cause of diabetes? Are there other culprits? Are there other metabolic errors that we're not looking at, other misconceptions? What is the true cause of diabetes?
Let me take that. That's my favorite topic, especially for type 2 diabetes. Sugar is not the cause of diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, sugar is not the cause of diabetes. Sugar is a symptom of type 2 diabetes. What ends up happening is you have to understand a little bit of the mechanics of the whole thing. Your cell doesn't have big holes for the glucose or sugar molecule to go in. So what we need is another, like a little lock and key, which is insulin. So insulin sticks to the cell and opens up a hole, and think about the sugar going in through that hole. Now, if that hole is jammed for some reason, sugar cannot go in. No matter how much insulin you produce, the sugar sticks around. And that's what we notice in diabetic patients. Their blood vessels are full of sugar. Their entire body organ systems are full of sugar, right? So what makes that little insulin not work? You know what it is? It's the fat in the cells. It's called intracellular lipid. And that fat, so there's a lock and key, right? So when the key goes in, it cannot turn because there's so much fat inside that it jams up the works. So sugar cannot go in, you have type 2 diabetes. So if you get rid of the fat, you will get rid of the type 2 diabetes. It's not try to get rid of the sugar, try to get rid of the fat.
So fats cause diabetes,
yes.
not sugar.
Yes, fats cause diabetes. And where do you think the fat comes from? From our potato chips, from the little pizza that we eat. So everything these days has a lot of fat. And there's another completely different topic as to why we have so much fat, because the food industry insists on putting fat because we love, from an evolutionary standpoint, our brains are wired to consume fat. When we consume the dietary fat, it goes into our viscera as well as in between our muscles. And that is dietary fat that is gunking up the system so that your insulin will not be able to work. And therefore, the glucose or the sugar molecule that's supposed to go in and be used up cannot be used up.
And you said that most people think, अरे मैंने तो मीठा खाया ही नहीं, फिर भी मुझे कैसे diabetes हो गया? I don't like sweets. I hardly eat sweets. So sugar doesn't cause diabetes. This proves the point. There are lots of people who hardly ever eat any sweets, and yet they get diabetes. So truly, it's not eating lots of sugar, sweets, that is the cause of diabetes. Having high blood sugar is an end result of diabetes. The cause of diabetes is the unhealthy fat in our diet, which is not processed properly in our body. Our body is hiding it inside the cell for the time being. I can't handle it, keep it here. But it slows down your system. It locks up the receptors, and then the glucose that is outside cannot go inside.
That's obviously not to say that you can eat as much sugar as you want. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
what we're
That's not-
promoting at
because
all.
sugar turns to fat. So,
Yes. So
you
that's
have to
what I wanted to add.
Yeah.
That, especially when you're on some plan, in this case, we would say, hey, now that we know that fat causes diabetes, let's remove the fat and just
eat sugar.
eat
Yeah.
sugar.
No,
But
that's
that
not what we're
excess
promoting at all.
sugar, in fact, anything that's excess, whether it's excess sugar, carbohydrate, protein, or fat, all in excess are going to turn into fat. So even excess sugar, especially in an unnatural form, where it is simple carbohydrates, refined sugars. We don't talk about complex carbohydrate because that does have sugar, but they are good for the body. Similarly, good fat, which comes in nuts, grains, seeds, good for the body. It pulses, good for the body. But the minute you go into processed form of fat, the oils that we see in abundance, that's when it actually kicks in harder for the person. So it's definitely the fat, but it's also the sugar with the pot.
Yeah, because I've seen people with diabetes who will, say that eating a fried samosa is okay, but eating sweets is not.
How
so
ironic,
they'll
yeah.
pick the fried
fried-
option versus the sweet option. I mean, they're both contributing to the same disease.
Oh no, they
At the
say
end of
that only now, there's some little bit of this fried snacks that we can comfortably have. ये एक ही तो खुशी बची है हमारे लिए, तो ये तो खा सकते हैं ना, इसमें थोड़ी sugar है. So they'll probably satisfy their taste buds with some fried stuff.
I feel so sad when I see people who cannot afford much. They're on the street corners and eating greasy, oily, stuff like vada pav, samosa, whatever, save. It's just choco-block full of oils. And you can, just by looking at the person, you can tell that this person is, busy doing whatever they're doing. They don't have time to exercise. They don't have time to figure out whether they're eating the right thing. They're thinking, oh, since I have diabetes, I might as well not eat sugar and eat this stuff. At least usme, like she said, usme sugar to nahi hai.
They'll avoid eating fruit as well.
Yes, they
Yeah.
avoid eating
Seen-
fruit.
So
Can-
again, it comes back to what forms of sugar, right? They might say, oh, but I'm avoiding white sugar, but can I have jaggery instead? But that jaggery also is sugar. Same amount of calories, whether you have the jaggery, whether you have molasses, whether you have the sugar itself, white sugar. So again, coming back, sugar is sugar.
I do want to talk about that because I've been wondering this for myself as well. If I'm not having refined sugar, are there forms of sugar that are better? Is jaggery better than refined sugar? You said they have the same amount of calories. Do they have the same glycemic index as well? Is honey better than, as someone who's on a plant-based diet, I can't have honey. So how would you rank jaggery, monk fruit, date syrup, agave syrup, all of these other sweeteners versus sugar-free and stevia and all these artificial sweeteners as well in comparison to white refined sugar?
So I would love to answer this because I've done enormous studies on this. And of course, as humans, we do gravitate towards sugar because when you say sugar, we relate it to glucose. Glucose is the fuel for the body. 90% of our brain needs that glucose. But where is that glucose coming from? And essentially, what type of sugar, right? So, as you see in the production process, uh, you start with a sugar cane for this instance, and it goes all the way to white sugar. In between, there are layers. Just like in any process, there are layers. There comes kakvi, as we commonly know in south of India. It's quite popular. It is high in vitamins. It's not refined, but it happens when you boil the sugar. Similarly, the next step is molasses, again high in vitamins and minerals. Blackstrap molasses, in fact, is known to be a better form of sugar. But both of these, in fact, all the way from sugarcane, all the way coming down to, the kakwi, the molasses, then coming down to jaggery, which is the liquid that is apart from the concentrated form of sugar. That itself, when it's in a solid form, it does look brown because, of course, it has the vitamins, the minerals. Jaggery is rich in iron. But is it for a diabetic? Coming to the the context of a diabetic, it's still sugar. So, when is the right time to have it? Not at all if you're a diabetic. Because, again, it's a process of sugar, the same form. It's a natural one, but it still has, it does lead to insulin resistance. It does cause glycemic index spikes. Not advisable for a diabetic, whether it's type 2 or type 1. And then you come down to the brown sugar and the white sugar. All the way till your body comes to a natural form of sugar balance. None of these would be advocated. Of course, fruit sugar works marvelously. When I say fruit sugar, I talk about fruits. The natural, whole, raw fruits, as we speak, even though they have sugars in them, they work wonderfully well with the biochemistry of the body. But of course, it requires a little bit of planning. And hence, as experts, we do advise how to have those fruits. And yeah, that's it. So no sugar in any form for a diabetic, in a processed form especially.
So for normal people, I completely concur with what Kajal said. For normal people, it's like a 19-20 ka farak. White sugar versus brown sugar versus gur versus molasses. There's not much of a difference.
Really?
Honey, yes, there's not much of a difference. So eat less of it, enjoy it for a normal person without diabetes. Now, of course, you don't want to unnecessarily take processed food, processed anything, right? So skip the white sugar. Skip anything like that. Even turbinado and all, you can skip it. Just have good, maybe, if you like that flavor, or if you like honey. Yeah, I know it's vegan, so I mean non-vegan, so there's an issue with that. So generally speaking, there's not much of a difference between these sugars as such. But again, going back to what Kajal was saying in terms of fruit, I just want to add one more thing, and that is the key in fruit is the fiber that's in there. And you want to talk about the fiber part, the fruit, because they always say about the jhadu, right?
Well, you mentioned the glycemic index. So
Yeah.
it's the carbohydrates versus the fiber. And to make it less technical, basically, they don't neutralize each other, but more fiber means less of the glucose is absorbed by your body and it comes out the other way. So
So people with diabetes can have fruit.
They can, but you have to be careful when they eat it and what type of fruit. Like some fruits, for example, pineapple, banana, ripe mango.
The GAP5 fruits.
Yeah, so those may not be the best ones to have. But some of the other fruits are fantastic.
We do have cases though, Dr. Prabhu, and of course, not to be controversial here, but we do have cases of people enjoying those GAP5 fruits as well.
Yeah. I'm not saying you should
Which
not
is
have
high
it at all.
glycemic
Yeah.
index. Once they come to a sugar balance, once they have eased the diabetes a little, there is incidences of people enjoying that GAP5 fruit, which is called, and still not spiking the blood sugar. But at the same time, you asked about honey. So honey is a component where there are two molecules. There's fructose and there is glucose. So both of them together in a body which has to process it is absolutely not recommended compared to any other sugar which has a simple way of, either it's a fructose or a glucose or a galactose. honey is a combination. So two more work for the body, and of course the fact that it's an animal food, we really haven't worked hard to understand the biochemistry because we've taken it for granted. So more research studies need to come up on that front at least. But yeah, definitely not honey for me.
So there's one thing that I want to mention, and that is about, you said something about stevia and monk fruit and stuff like that.
Yeah, the
So keep in,
so-called healthy
yeah,
alternatives to
and
sugar.
this brings me to diet sodas also, because they have aspartame and all this stuff. You have to remember that all these artificial sweeteners or even natural sweeteners like stevia, what are they doing? They are telling your brain it's sweet. So as soon, okay, think of a gulab jamun.
Hmm.
You thought of a gulab jamun? You spiked insulin.
What?
You spiked
Just by thinking about it.
Yes, just by thinking about of a sweetener, and you're visualizing it. You visualize gulab jamun, you spiked insulin. You don't want insulin spikes now. Forget the sugar. The minute you spike insulin, all your thing is gone. Like you're going more and more towards having more insulin in your body, right?
So when I'm
it doesn't
eating
matter whether
stevia,
it's sorry.
sorry,
Yeah.
So when I'm eating stevia, what is that doing to my
It's
brain
spiking
chemistry?
insulin.
So stevia is
Stevia
a
doesn't have
plant.
sugar.
Yeah, stevia is a plant. Essentially, the whole history about stevia comes from Germany, where it's popularly grown. But stevia is a plant. Now, when you have a stevia leaf in your tea, all right, it will not spike the glucose. I mean, it will not spike the glycemic index of that particular meal as much. But the minute it gets into processing, all right, and there are two forms of it. There's a botanide and stevioside. There are two forms of it. One has been approved by FDA, but I'm not 100% sure yet. There are enough studies that say that this is going to help a diabetic truly. All right. Similarly, monk fruit, it's very popular in Australia. It's now come to India as the new alternative for sweeteners. That is also following a similar cycle that stevia did, you know. So on and so forth. At one point of time, aspartame, sucralose, they all were very popular. There are sugar alcohols, right? Erythritol, sorbitol in chewing gums. But that also is questionable because eventually it is a sugar alcohol.
And
So
also
why
it's-
would you want that in
Yeah,
your system, isn't
That's
it?
right. So, I mean, the key is what she said is key is not to think about the sugar part, think about the insulin part, right? So, I mean, and also, I don't want to go into these amazing discoveries that we've had. Apparently, there are 7 or 8 types of receptors in our body, not just our tongue, for taste. Even our bones can taste. So, when you take in stevia, even your bones may say, okay, release a little bit of insulin, tells the pancreas, release insulin, sugar aa gaya. They cannot differentiate between sugar and
That's what I was asking. As
stevia,
a
right? Or
non-diabetic
erythritol.
person
Yeah.
who is, just looking for a healthy alternative to sugar, where do I go?
They put the saccharin and these
Exactly.
things, right? And
Exactly.
unfortunately, when I see them, I feel so sad. I'm like, you're spiking it because you want that sugary thing. The best thing to do, like Kajal said, try to wean yourself off that sugary craving that you have. I mean, I was, I used to have my advisor in graduate school used to call me khadi chammach because I would take chai and I would put so much sugar that the chammach would stand up. Okay, now when I have chai, there's no sugar in it. Over the years, your taste buds adapt, and I think we might be talking about that a little later, but I just want to mention that. So, yeah.
Your taste buds actually adapt over 21 to 28 days. So you can, it doesn't, I mean, yes, I have proof that this guy has very little to zero sugar in his chai and coffee. But I also was the same way. I used to put those artificial creamers into my coffee before I was plant-based. And now I don't like sugar in my coffee. So your taste buds just same with sugar, with fats, and with animal versus plant-based products. You can teach your body over weeks to not crave certain things.
And even as a craving, you're absolutely right on craving, right? When we talk about children, the sugar threshold over a decade, every decade it has increased, and now it is increasing like year on year tremendously, where you just feel something is not sweet enough. That's why a carrot doesn't feel sweet. That's why even a date doesn't feel sweet anymore. just this threshold. A cookie has to be amazingly tasty. I mean, just because of the sugar, you can't taste anything but the sugar.
So there's no easy way for me to get, as a non-diabetic person, that's what I'm asking. There's no healthy form of sugar
Fruits.
that I can, apart from fruits, that I can you put in dessert.
So here the question is about if you have a diabetes, yes, sugar is a major issue. And so you're not going to take sugar absolutely in any form. But if you're not a diabetic and you still want to have sweet taste, then the best thing is to chew your food very well. If you're very hungry, भाग के आए बहुत भूख लगी, just get a piece of chapati and chew it very well. It will start tasting sweet. The sweetness is in the food, every food, as you chew it very well. It's not to be substituted from outside. Anything that is processed and then added is artificial. It's more like a stimulant. You're not going to take that. Just simple rules of life. Eat when you are hungry. Chew your food very well. Eat your foods in the whole form. In that case, your carrots and your bananas, even your chapati and your rice, all of them will have its own natural sweetness. And that's the real sweetness. That's the sweetness you should
I
have.
need to teach my brain that, because as soon as I'm done eating, I crave something sweet, and I always assume that, okay, if I have a little bit of jaggery, because Ayurvedic food and Sattvic foods, they do promote the use of jaggery, or they do allow it at least. So if I'm having desserts that are made of jaggery or like monk fruit or stevia, there's other like artificial sweeteners. There's so many artificial sweeteners now. So I assume that, date syrup and all these alternatives are maybe better than white refined sugar, even coconut sugar for that matter. So I'm like, okay,
Marginally.
Palm
it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
Yeah.
not deny yourself. I mean, a big part of medicine is mental health, and it's depressing. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. If I can't have that at all. If you have a small piece of something, and a lot of these foods have their own benefits. So lots of micronutrients in dates, and dark chocolate
chocolate.
without milk
I love it.
is antioxidants and all these other anti-cancer properties. So you can have small amounts of these little like pleasures in life. Don't deny yourself. Everything is a small step. It takes time. You can't one day say, okay, I'm not having it anymore, because then you'll look at everyone else, you'll be jealous, and it becomes this process. Also, you, like Dr. Rupa was saying, you can teach yourself to recognize the natural sweetness in foods. Like, for example, when most days I have black coffee, because I'm so used to it, I can taste the sweetness in the coffee beans now. And I think most people can't, because you've put milk and sugar in it and you don't taste the coffee hardly at all. But I can actually tell differences between coffee bean roast and the sweetness. So you still get the sweetness. And it sounds crazy, but it's actually true. Same with like sometimes I'll have almond milk. You can taste the sweetness of the almonds. It's not sweetened. It's just almonds and water, but you can taste the natural sweetness.
So it's just about retraining your taste buds over again and eating more like natural.
Your taste
whole
bud
food.
gets hijacked all the time
Yeah.
with all this modified stuff.
Yeah. Most doctors still believe that type 2 diabetes cannot be reversed. What is missing in the mainstream approach? Because all four of you have obviously seen real life cases and examples where type 2 diabetes has been reversed. What is your approach? What do you recommend your patients, and what have you discovered that mainstream medicine is still missing till today?
All the through years, like even me as a doctor, for first 25 years of my own practice, I saw many diabetes patients and I never got them improve or anything. So I also believe exactly the same thing, that diabetes is for life. These diseases you cannot reverse. You have to take medicines and manage yourself, control yourself. So, but just when I discovered the whole food plant-based lifestyle, and then I saw some of my initial patients of diabetes start reversing their diabetes. So there are a few stages. Number one is diabetes going in remission. That means your blood sugars come back to normal with the plant-based diet. Then after remission, you maintain your blood sugars at an excellent level like 6 HbA1c. After a few months of that, we call it as a reversal of diabetes, because your HbA1c is maintained below your abnormal levels for quite some time. And then you can take a little bit of sugar, and yet your blood sugars never increase. Your body can handle it. You've reversed the diabetes. And then the next one is prevention of diabetes. You have said bye-bye to diabetes. You've closed the door and said, don't come again. I'm not going to get it again ever. And that is the prevention of diabetes. I've seen my patients go through all these stages properly. The diabetes went into remission. Blood sugars came back to all normal. No medication. Diabetes reversed. Take a little bit of sugar once in a while, here and there. Something sweet. Body can handle it. You've reversed. Insulin is producing and working very well in your body. Done. HbA1c maintained for a whole year. Maybe there's a glucose tolerance test, which is more specific. That also comes normal. You've reversed your diabetes.
You said no medicines.
No medicines. No medicines. Only following a plant-based diet, which is more healthy. And 5 years, 10 years down the line, I still see those patients again. There are no more patients. They are healthy individuals. Diabetes was gone 10 years ago. There is no diabetes now. These are the people who have prevented diabetes coming back again ever. They are 100% out of it. These are the various stages of diabetes reversal.
Why a whole food plant-based diet?
I did not believe this stuff at all. So this was about 10 years ago or so? No, more than that. Maybe
Almost 50.
almost 15 years ago. I was, like I said, I was heading NIH. So I had a whole bunch of postdoctoral students wanted to come from the lab. They wanted to get out of their lab stuff and come to the business side of things, of looking at technologies and all. And when one of those things, Folks Over Knives, some documentary came out, and she was practicing about 25-30 miles from my office. And she would call me and say, these patients are coming and saying they want to get rid of the diabetes. And I told them, nothing, you can't get rid of diabetes. Here's the medicine. And she said, just check to see if this is the case. So I put one of my postdoctoral students, I said, do me a favor, go, and for the next couple of days, your job is just looking at, not just diabetes actually, looking at other things, arthritis and so on and so forth. I said, check to see if there is any truth in it. And she came back, I had told her like 2-3 days, and within 2 days she came back and said, look at all the papers that I emailed you. You will not believe what I found. And the thing is, in the literature for the past almost 100 years, we've had data that says if you switch over from animal-based food to plant-based food, a lot of your chronic diseases, especially things like diabetes is like one of the easiest ones.
The fastest.
Fastest.
It's fun.
Fastest.
It just comes down, zooms
Yeah.
and
Disappears
zooms.
like
It's
that.
almost like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, it actually is true. So I called her and she's like, no, we didn't learn that. I mean, I also went to a similar, same university, medical school. I learned only pathology, but she got the MD. But point is that we both were never taught that chronic diseases have a connection with plant versus animal-based foods. And the reason why the animal-based foods have an issue is because of all kinds of things that cause inflammation in our body. That's one of the primary. In fact, it's now being called aging. Inflammation continuous inflammation in our body causes faster aging. It has all kinds of issues like leaky gut syndrome. Brain fog. All these things are caused by animal-based foods, and there's a huge body of research now that shows the data as to why some of these things can cause a disease. Right now, we're only talking about diabetes, so I'll stick to that. But the point is that every one of these studies that at least I've seen, it clearly indicates you switch somebody from a animal-based food, day to day they're eating animal-based, and I'm talking about quote-unquote vegetarians, Indian vegetarians. No, we are Indian vegetarians and animal-based food. They're having dahi, doodh, makhan, and my favorite, paneer. And it's all really, really bad for you. Paneer is just chock-a-block full of saturated fats. It has all these hormones that we talked about earlier, the naturally produced cow hormones in the paneer, because as you concentrate it, and hormones are oil-based, so they concentrate even more. Maximum amount of, we think that a lot of the PCOS and all problems that we see in women A lot of it is because of these highly processed, concentrated dairy that we're having.
What's the connection? Because you said there's a difference between if you
Yeah,
switch
so
someone from animal-based
yes.
food to plant-based food.
Uh-huh.
What's the connection?
So we are animals, right? So somehow this is something that I've noticed from learning about our gut. So what lands up happening is our gut is very similar. So we ingest some animal based, let's say we ingest some paneer or dahi, like a little particle of dairy is going into our body and going into the stomach and going into the intestine. As soon as it goes to the intestine, it's animal based, so our body doesn't quite realize whether it's remember, if you remember your primary biology, I think animals have membranes, plants have cell wall and then a membrane, right? So there is a inherent difference between animal matter and plant matter. So animal matter goes into our gut, and we think we meaning our gut intestine villi, I think, yeah, it's probably our own cell. So they allow it to come in. That's called a leaky gut. So once it's in, immediately all our cells are on high alert. Suddenly they realize, "Arey, ye to koi aur hai. This is not a human being. It's not a human being ka cell that has come in. It's a dahi or something that has come in." Now they all attack. So when they attack to get rid of this whatever animal matter that has come in, they release a lot of chemicals like cytokines and stuff like that. Okay, and that's what causes inflammation. So once you have inflammation, it's like a what is it called? Like a snowball effect. You have one place that's inflamed. You're concentrating on that. You're healing your gut. Let's say at that same time I got a cut. At the same time I got a cut, and I'm eating dahi. So my body is now, let's say I had 100 cells that were fighting cells. 80 cells have gone here. 20 cells are going to heal my. So yeah, so you've divided your killer cells into recovering here versus recovering here.
So many people use dahi and buttermilk to heal inflammation.
Yes.
And you're
isn't
saying
it?
that causes inflammation.
Yes.
So I asked you, but so many people promote dahi and
Yeah.
buttermilk to cure inflammation. If someone has an upset stomach, they'll be like, oh, have dahi chawal, or, drink buttermilk and have some curd and yogurt, and it's going to make you feel better. But you're saying that causes inflammation.
So the components in that cause inflammation. Temporarily there is relief, right? Temporarily there is relief from people even drink milk. I remember
It's a pH.
It's a pH thing.
Yeah, a
you
temporary.
Acidity.
Yeah.
For
So-
acidity.
so-
It's like
you
a topical.
like a
So you-
how what is that, milk of magnesia kind of a thing? You coat the stomach and you feel better, but after some time what happens is, your stomach is feeling, you've reduced the acidity. However, your body is already injured. Inside your body is injured, right? So now you have to take care of that injury. So
a good example, I'll give our friend. We were out with our friends last night, and our friend was having acidity, so she drank a lassi at dinner.
Turmeric.
Just plain lassi, like a plain, yeah.
Popular, yeah.
And she exactly described, like, she felt better briefly, and then she was like, I don't understand. I was better for a couple minutes, and now I feel worse. So very like physiologically. Initially, there's that topical, like putting a Band-Aid on it, and then all the inflammation starts from the bottom up, from your duodenum, from the upper part of your small intestine, and the acid in your stomach starts coming back up again. The little flat,
Reflux.
the acid reflux. So it's just over time you do feel better, and I think that's probably where this came from, that using this as a cure. But over time, it's making things worse. And it's hard to get that into people's heads.
Why do you, as experts, when we're talking about reversing diabetes, ask people to wean off animal-based products, whether that's dairy or meat?
So most important for as we talk that reversing diabetes, we focus on the source of fat. That's the cause of diabetes. The most element products are laden with saturated fats. That's no fiber. So we don't want any fat coming from animal sources in such high amount. Even when you remove fat from the milk, there is some more fat still left inside it. So you don't want this coming directly without any fiber. In nature, you see, whichever food items have more fat in it, also has more fiber in it. That's the way of nature. But here it is coming absolutely zero fiber, lots of fat, and this goes directly into our system. Our system gets excess dose of it, goes and stores it up inside the muscle cells, and clogs up our entire insulin pathway. So, therefore, as soon as we try to do a low fat, whole food, plant based diet, the miracle happens as early as 12 hours. You've eaten You've eaten a decent whole food plant based meal in the evening. In the morning, your blood sugar drops. It's that fast. From meal to meal, as you eat healthy, you will see your sugar level start dropping because there is no external source of unhealthy fat coming in your diet. So your body now has some time to release the fats which were already there stored. Okay, I don't need this. Let's release it. So now the cells are lighter and your insulin receptors are fully functional and the sugar starts going in. It almost appears like magical, so fast. So our body is a fantastic machine. It's a very transparent machine. It is very responsive also. Moment, suppose if your car runs on diesel and then you try to put petrol in it, it's going to not work. Your engine will, go totally bad. Same way, when you eat the foods which are aligned to your anatomy and physiology, which are simple, whole food, plant based, minimally processed, and just as far as possible, seasonal, regional, organic, very simple. Go back to our traditional varan bhat, from region to region, we all had our very nice, healthy ethnic meals. And eat when you are hungry. Don't overeat. Now we have refrigeration. We eat foods which were made maybe 2 months ago. All those things are not required. Just look at the platter of the people who are below poverty line. They're very simple meals. They eat just 2 or 3 proper meals in a day. They work very hard physically. We don't have much of physical labor also nowadays. So we are also very stressed out, which adds up to the whole thing. So all these factors together are going to give you diabetes. And as soon as you change from animal products to the plant-based products, which is high in fiber, and there are some nice healthy fats anyway which you can take. There's protein, there's carbohydrate. You don't have to even count your calories or your protein or carbohydrates because there's also something to do with satiety center. For example, if I give you 6 bananas, I don't think you will eat it. You'll probably have 2 if you're very hungry, maybe 3. And maybe if you had it for 4 days, 5th day, I will not have bananas anymore. Your internal system tells you had enough of bananas, wait for a week, then you revisit that. So that satiety center works very beautifully, tells us what to eat, and then we relish and enjoy hundreds of different plant-based foods. And in our country, there's biodiversity. From north to south, we have the largest variety of vegetarian foods that we can eat and can nurture us, and we never get bored of it. And the fiber and the high nutrients and antioxidants, phytonutrients, all of them help our satiety point very well. You can never overeat it on a plant-based diet. It fills up your stomach. It tells you, okay, stop. So all this is so beautiful. Then the animal products, all the processed foods, or the sugar, or the oil or oily stuff, there no one tells you to stop when. But here your body tells you when to stop. And then in about 30 or 40 days of being on a plant-based diet, you reset your taste buds completely. You do not even eat so much quantity. You do not eat so frequently. You don't have low sugar attacks if you manage your medication very well. There's like a magic reset of your entire system, and the blood sugars go back to normal. It's that simple. It's a slow, sweet killer, If you don't pay attention, it's going to kill you from inside with the sweetness. But here, when you go on a plant-based diet, we say that sweetness actually returns. You can have mangoes when you reverse your diabetes. So many of our patients, when the mango season comes, mangoes, doctor, I said, of course, please have it. Now you don't have diabetes and you eat mangoes just like me. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. They can have grapes, they can have bananas, they can have pineapples, and they'll check the sugar and it's not increasing. And so eat the food which is real food and don't eat the fake foods or food-like substances.
What's your take on plant-based diets when it comes to diabetes? Because I get that animal meat has a high level of saturated fat, but what about dairy? If someone is vegetarian, can they still get diabetes?
So dairy, I mean, like she said, dairy is nothing but saturated fats, right? So fat is one of the primary causes of diabetes. So you have to stay away from it as much as possible. Also remember, the highly processed foods, not just the meat part, but if you're not eating plant-based foods, if you're eating something out of a packet, it's highly processed. So if it's highly processed, let's say a bag of chips, okay, what are you going to get out of it? You're going to get very high glycemic index sugar, right? A carbohydrate, right? You consume it, the minute you consume it, it turns into sugar and it is coated with fat. Terrible fats for you. And in addition, that sugar, as soon as it's gone in, already it's not like you're really hungry. So you're fairly healthy. You really did not need that bag of chips. And now you have sugar that has turned to fat and fat that doesn't have to turn to fat. It's already there. So the highly processed foods are leading you to accumulate more and more fat, leading to diabetes. One other thing that I wanted to say about the highly fat, oh God, I forgot the
IGF.
Yeah.
IGF-1 involved.
Oh yeah. So yeah, thanks. So dairy has another thing that I think Dr. Jenny had mentioned this, which is calf going from like a tiny little thing to a big thing. There are certain hormones, naturally occurring hormones. These are not, people think, we get this A2 milk, they have not been injected with hormones. No. You don't need to inject the cow with hormones. It naturally produces the hormone. Every one of us produces this, one of the molecules called IGF-1. It is insulin-like growth factor. So think about it. It is insulin-like. So that means if there is more of this, as it is, you're producing insulin. On top of it, this insulin-like growth factor is also sitting in there. What do you think is happening to the lock and key? I mean, you've already added more and more insulin to it. There's no way that the lock and keys mechanism is going to work. So it's dairy is one of those biggest culprits. Next one in line, I think, I don't know whether you guys agree or not, is processed food. Third one is meat. All these three I've called the trifecta of, if you want to prevent diabetes, prevent these things. When you're eating, your plate should look like you can identify, this is a palak, this is rajma, this is chole. You should be able to see the plant in your food. You don't see the plant in your food, I think you're going slightly away. Okay, chapati, for example, you kind of know that is wheat, but the point is that, raw wheat, like, when we make this khichda or something like that, we put wheat, like actual whole wheat. When we are taking a spoon out and we can see urad dal, chana dal, wheat, eat it. So you can actually see the grain in it, right? I mean, as compared to when was the last time I don't know, some junk food you're eating, you don't even know what the heck that was. You have no idea whether it was
500 ingredients in like one little
and then
chip,
15
and you have no
ingredients
idea.
listed there,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Interesting. So dairy has IGF,
Yes.
which imitates insulin in the body,
Yeah.
and it's the same with animal
Yeah.
meat.
Yep.
Animal meat also has IGF.
Animal meat is just saturated fats, right? I mean, this is one of those classic things that people think that I'm eating lean meat. By definition, folks, meat is about 30% or more of fat, right? 35% of fat comes from the leanest cut of meat that you can have. You say, I'm having, I want to build my body and I'm going to have, chicken. But 35% of that calories that you're consuming is going straight to your arteries and stuff because it's saturated fats and it's making you sluggish. So, I mean, I can give my own example, much to my wife's chagrin, because she was like, don't talk about yourself, but a little bit, I'll tell you. I was probably like 7-8 kilos more than I am now because I used to work out like crazy and all this whey protein and I can do this many pull-ups, this, that, and the other. And one fine day, of course, this is in US, so we don't get blood tests done that frequently. Got my blood test done, and my cholesterol was 330 something, 330, 300 total cholesterol, of which the bad cholesterol was really high, but my good cholesterol was high because I was exercising. And she said, Ajoy, if you don't, if your cholesterol level does not come down, you'll have to be on a statin, like something to actually force, medication to bring the cholesterol down. She said, why don't you do what we're doing to the patients? Why don't you, preach what you practice what you preach? And I reluctantly said, no, I mean, I brought up eating non-veg stuff. So for me, it was more difficult to give it up. But then the amount of stuff that you can make these days that mimic meat, which is what may be necessary for non-vegetarians. For non-vegetarians, you might need a substitute initially, like mock meat and stuff like that, to kind of bring you out of that, thing of eating meat all the time.
The familiarity, the taste check,
Yeah,
texture,
yeah.
the way it looks.
Mushrooms,
Yeah.
jackfruit, mushrooms. So bring it down into the realm of plants. And then once you get used to it, like she said, 21, 30, I would give it like 35, 40 days. Chalo, give 40 days. And suddenly you'll say, my taste buds are free. I mean, like when I was a kid, I don't know how many of you guys liked Karela. I hated Karela. Now I love Karela. Right. So taste buds change over as you age or as as days go by. So it's important to kind of like stick to it for some time, eat plants, and you'll start actually. And I always give this example of, give me a tandoori chicken versus chole bhature. I'll go after the chole bhature like there was no tomorrow. 20 years ago, I would have said, forget chole bhature. I'm going to have chicken.
Yeah, of course.
So, every disease here comes for a reason. It doesn't just drop like that. We made a mistake. Something has gone wrong. And so we have to pay attention. What this disease has come here to teach me a lesson. What is it pointing out? Look for the cause and then exactly work on the cause. That is the only way. So if you think I got diabetes, I'll work for 2 hours in gym and my diabetes will go away, it's not going to happen. If you think that you eat wrong foods and you're going to burn your calories somewhere by running 2 hours, that's also not going to happen. You have to eat the foods which are anatomically and physiologically right for you. And that can only reverse your diseases. That's the only way.
When we have patients coming to us and saying, ghee, we've been told. So I say, if an Ayurvedic doctor has put it in medicine, have it. We are not Ayurvedic experts, have it. We take a plane and fly. So we trust the pilots, we trust the engineers that have built the plane, we trust physics. We take a car and go from place to place. We trust physics, we trust biology, we trust chemistry, right? Similarly, I want you to understand that ghee, if you analyze it like a good scientist should do, look at all the components, and it says most of it is milk solids, which has been concentrated again with all those IGFs and stuff like that, and saturated fats. Now you decide. Is there like ghee has some magical thing or no? If there is a magical thing, it may be because of Ayurveda. So if the Ayurvedic, the way that gives you something like a pudiya or something like these little capsules, consume it, fine. But don't say that it'll help me lubricate my joints. I've heard this actually,
Yeah.
lubricate my
It's
joints.
a good
and stuff like that.
lubricant for your body.
It's not like some, you're not a mechanical.
I wanted to talk about that. I
yeah.
always find that ironic because they talk about having ghee for lubricating joints, but it's actually the opposite. The more animal products, as we've said multiple times now, there's more ongoing inflammation of your body. What is arthritis? Itis is inflammation of the joint. That's literally what the word means. So the more inflammation coming from animal products, especially something concentrated like ghee, it's going to make your arthritis worse. So it's this vicious cycle. You have more ghee, the arthritis eventually over time will get worse. So have it in the natural form, have the natural fat.
Can I see that example of, because, stories go along. I know we are talking about diabetes. However, there was a lady in Turkey. She was a nurse in the army. And she would go to the doctor and say, my joints hurt. And they say, oh, you have arthritis. So she said, but it hurts I think it hurts when I eat meat. They said, no such thing. So she did a test on herself. So some days she would go without eating meat for weeks. And the joint pain, they would assess the joint pain and said, okay, you don't have much arthritis. Some days she would insist on eating a lot of meat, and then she would go there and they would assess it. And she said, I have they said, you have arthritis. So she said, let me tell you something. I have been eating meat. The days I eat meat, you tell me that I have joint pain. The days I don't eat meat, I don't have joint pain. That's how actually the previous story is, that's how leaky gut was discovered through this Turkish lady. But I just wanted to give you that example that inflammation is caused, a lot of it, because of consuming animal products. So people who have joint pain and back pain and stuff like that, I mean, I can guarantee you none of the all of us, I bet you there's nothing called joint pain and back pain in us,
Oh,
right?
in fact, we feel stronger. I mean,
Yeah.
my case has been the opposite. When I was having animal foods in form of dairy, and I'm a Gujarati, so that's in abundance. It was always better. I mean, it was always worse. I had like severe acidity and everything. Now I feel, even though age has gone up, the all the energies have come back on plant-based meals thanks to that plan. So we all have similar stories to share, but the energies definitely pop up with.
Ghee is a very Indian concept. Only in Indian subcontinent we use the word ghee. Rest of the world is thriving without ghee. So it's not absolutely necessary for our body. It's Indian concept.
Yeah,
Rest of them have very good joints, and it's okay. They've never heard about ghee. They don't eat it. They don't make it. It's not available in the market. And right now also, just another observation is that ghee is one of the most adulterated product sold in Indian market.
And I guess it's just it's something that we need to.
Do you get any pushback in the Indian context saying, but we've been eating this type of food for thousands
So
of years?
the best way to do it is, give us 30 days, give us 40 days, something like that. We always say this. Just, the rest, you have the rest of your life to eat ghee. Just give us 30 days. Quit dairy for 30 days and see what happens. Don't, come back to us after 30 days and tell us.
What are people that come to you saying, but my grandmother lived up to 90, 90, 100 years of age,
And now
she
it's
had
become a
ghee.
new thing, like
Yeah.
A2 ghee or
Yeah.
other forms of ghee,
Yeah.
hand-churned ghee. So it's
So
become.
if someone's using the ancestors as an excuse, saying if my grandmother ate ghee and consumed dairy and lived up to 90 and 100, if that's a case study, then who are you to tell me that I should quit dairy and what's...
Yeah, there are two answers to this. Number one, your grandmother did not eat at McDonald's, and you are. Number one. Number two is, it's a little nuanced and it's difficult to explain to people. Your grandmother is an anecdote. She is an outlier. Like, for example, I can tell you about my grandfather, who was 98. He did not die of lung cancer, but he smoked every day of my life. I saw him, he would be with a bidi. He smoked a bidi and he died at 98. My dad, unfortunately, smoked for like 20 years of his life. And he is more typical. My dad is more typical of, by the time he finished 20 years of, so he died after starting of smoking, 30 years past that or so, something like that, he passed away with lung cancer. His brother passed away with lung cancer. All the patients that you study in, when you're doing a medical study, you look at these people and say, these people, because they smoked, they died. Because they smoked, they died of lung cancer. That is the norm. Some people are outliers. So this person, whoever tells us these things, we tell them, your grandmother was out of this box. She was very, 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 very lucky to not have died. So, we kind of explain it like that. But a lot of times what happens is they themselves are not very keen on giving up the dairy. So we say, okay, set boundaries. Are you going to do this for 30 days? Yes or no?
Because it goes back to Krishna and Ayurveda and goes back to history and culture, and you're taking us away from our culture, and these are all foreign terms.
Sure, they say that the Aryans, brought cows in India, and they started organized agriculture. So they needed cows and, oxes, and to help them out in the farming work. They themselves also did a lot of hard work. There was no refrigerator at that time. So they had to convert milk into some product that would be either curd or then buttermilk and then ghee. That's it, because there was no refrigerator available. There was a very small quantity available. The cow was not artificially inseminated. Only when she became naturally pregnant, her calf was given, and then leftover was probably, if required, used by the young children of the house or the old or sick people. So it was not like too much consumption of ghee or anything like that. And then, earlier, like they used to say that ये तो जो पैसे वाले हैं उनके घर में गाय होती है. So very few people can afford. The word capital means head. That means how many animals do you own? That's your capital,
Yeah,
This is
livestock as well.
yeah, that is how it was. So let's not compare with the times of Krishna. And I understand that in Ayurveda, in our prasad, in our festivals, in our literally every day to day living, eating, there is some dairy product somewhere. But where is that dairy, and where is those times when we did so much hard work and there's no pesticides, there's no fertilizers, so much of chemical overloads, hormones, antibiotics, all that stuff is now here with the white revolution. Now it is commercially produced. So now pay attention to what is there in that glass of milk that comes on your table. If you now put those same conclusions to the dairy that is the way it is now, it's not going to happen. It doesn't have the same guna. Guna means the quality, the healing quality that was there at that time. They will say vata pacifying. Now it is vat causing. It's vata janya, pitta janya, kapha janya. It's all along disturbing. You're not going to have the dairy the same qualities. So forget about it.
A lot of people say that protein is key when it comes to managing diabetes. Is there any truth to that?
Because people look for protein only in animal foods. That's the biggest issue. There is enough protein and more in plant based foods. What about vegetarians? Of course, apart from the dairy, who are not eating meat, they still get their protein and they are easily sufficient. When you look at protein, of course, it's an important thing because a human body has that as one of the important macronutrients. So it cannot be denied. It cannot even be ignored. But one can't be reckless or careless about overhyping protein as the only form of macronutrient that's going to help on a plant-based, on a diabetic. When we talk of protein, also the new diet fads that come in, whether it is Atkins, whether it is the keto diet that strongly advocates very high protein, which also becomes high fat, unfortunately low carbohydrate. Now, the issue with that is, of course, the fiber is gone when you look at animal foods which are high in protein. The minute you jump to a plant based diet, you will find whether it's the legumes, the pulses, we often tell our diabetics who are on plant based diets because they usually don't only miss the natural integrity of the plant based foods, but they also miss the vitamins and minerals that are existing in plant based foods. So, the combination of that together is what helps the diabetic. When they are too focused on protein, which is coming from animal foods, of course, the saturated fat comes in, zero fiber, which only aggravates the diabetes. See, the first symptom of the sugar imbalance is actually something that is welcoming to the body because the body is giving you a signal, hey, something is wrong, get your sugars regulated, and you can easily take care of it, whether you are on plant or animal based, to be honest. But the minute you jump to a plant based diet, the beauty of it, that even though it may not have that high biological value, just like your dairy and meat, it may not have the protein absorption value like dairy and meat, maybe on paper. But the best part about it is the way it gets absorbed, the way it gets digested in plant-based foods, the way that protein gets digested is absolutely on par with great nutrition today. You look at again, apple to apple, when you look at protein rich foods like, of course, starting from soy, you go to the peas, the humble pea, right? The green pea, so rich in protein, the chickpeas that we talk about, the sattu, all of that. There's so much abundance in plant based foods that may be due to marketing or efforts that are not very at a level of high awareness in the medical community or the nutrition community today. There's not that much research, but strong research is coming out, isn't it, Dr. Prabhu, in favor of plant-based foods having that protein. So I would say a lot of it is lack of awareness. Frankly, it's not actually a mistake on the individual's part. It's a mistake on the entire ecosystem that has led him or her to make this choice of having protein-rich animal foods.
So I want to add something to this. I have an admission. You eat a lot of animal-based protein and your diabetes will go away. But then you have to worry about heart attacks. It's true. I'll give you a very simple example. So let's say we take 2,000 calories. A normal person eats 2,000 kilocalories, of which now you're eating animal protein. So that means 35% of that is coming from saturated fats, the rest from protein. And you're not consuming much in terms of carbohydrates. So no carbohydrates, slowly but surely the sugar level drops and you're happy. No diabetes. Fantastic. And you go out and work out because you're eating a lot of protein. So you have to build the muscle. So you go out and work out. And all that saturated fat is sticking in there. Very recently, there have been tons of cases where people have like dropped dead in gyms, outside gyms, or while eating their whey protein or chicken, mutton, whatever.
Dr. Atkins dropped
Dr.
dead on
Atkins
my
died of this. Sudden, had a heart attack, and he was a big proponent of a keto diet, right? So yes, diabetes can go away, but for how long? How long are you going to continue with this? How long are you not going to give your body the essential carbohydrates, essential antioxidants, anti-cancer stuff that plants provide? Animals don't provide this. Animals provide nothing. They don't provide any vitamins. They might provide some minerals. They will provide tons of fat. They'll provide protein and no carbohydrates. So nothing that is no antioxidants in there.
Cholesterol, lots of
So
cholesterol,
you'll
lots
get a
of
lot of cholesterol, and there's an issue with cholesterol. But the point is that it is going to lead you, if not give you, lead you towards heart disease.
At the end of the day, it's not about diet. It's not about diet, which doesn't even last beyond 21 days. If you get bored, you're tired, you take fixed portions. Someday you get bored. There's nothing to connect with your intuition or desires. It's not about diet. It's about lifestyle. It's about a sustainable way of living. Day to day, something that you can sustain for rest of your life without having this feeling of I'm on some diet. And it beautifully gels with your entire life. My patients, after a month of giving up, say, animal products, when they see their sugars coming down, or lacto-vegetarians, when they give up their dairy products, and in a month's time, the sugars are very down, they come, they laugh at me. Why? Doc, I can do this rest of my life. On their own, they tell me. On their own, this is a sustainable
And
lifestyle.
delicious. It's a delicious lifestyle, isn't it?
Nurturing, delicious, supporting, soul satisfying, very high in satiety. The food is not on your mind. From meal to meal, we call it as trupti. You no more think of food and you move on and do what you're supposed to do in your life and you thrive.
One question we ask our patients a lot of times is, think of yourself when you're 85, 90. Do you want to say, today, how many grams of protein am I supposed to? No, or which diet am I following? No, you want to be able to be in a space where you just say, okay, it's time to eat. I know what is healthy for me because over the years I've been doing this, and therefore I'm going to eat this. Finished. End of story.
For someone who's in their 20s or 30s, my Gen Z, millennials, my age group, what do we need to be doing today to make sure that we live a healthier life growing older? What's one change that we could make today?
The biggest one is to connect with your food. Give at least 1 minute to look at your food, what's on your table. Just connect. Look, what's there? Is it food or food-like substance? Is it real food? When I eat it, how do I feel after half an hour of it? Do I feel very sleepy or do I feel energetic? Just connect. Practice mindfulness every single day. Just don't keep putting food in your mouth unconsciously. This is the first and the only lesson that I would like you all to practice in your life.
Yeah, I think she's absolutely on the nose. Trying to make sure that what you're eating is what is meant for you, right? So Uh, if you see something that's delicious and tasty, do ask yourself this question: was this food designed by nature, or was this designed by a food engineer? Right? So if you open a bag of chips, 1,000% it's been designed by a food engineer, and he or she has engineered the food so that you continue eating that stuff, and once that packet is over, you want to go get another one. So as soon as you see that, catch yourself saying, this is addiction, this is something I should not be eating. Put that aside and give us. And one of the biggest things that we say is the principle of Kaizen, the Japanese principle of Kaizen. Make very, 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 very small changes. If you make big changes, you're not going to sustain. It took me how many months to give up milk? And that took 2 spoons of milk, because I'm a Delhi boy. I had to have my milk in my chai. I'm admitting it. 6 months, she slowly changed the milk from regular milk. I used to get the small little Amul Tetra pack just for me, because everybody else had already switched out. And what did you add? Oat milk or something, right? Started adding oat milk in there. And one fine day, she said, "You are having oat milk. You're not having regular milk at all."
Oh, you didn't even realize
I
it?
didn't realize. You put very little at a time and
Because
switch
he's
it up.
stubborn.
Love that.
So anyway, so the point is, make very small changes, the changes that you feel that you can sustain. You say, I can make this change. It's same thing goes for exercise, same thing goes for meditation. Basically, in life in general, it's not just about food. Anything that you want to make a change and you say, I will make this change, I'll make this change. It's about consistency. I think we have written that in our book also. It's about consistency. Make consistent changes in your life, and they will remain with you throughout your life.
I was trying to think of something catchy to say, and I thought of make food fun again.
Yeah.
I think it should not be, I think now, and I'm guilty of this too, a lot of times our meals are sitting, scrolling through, social media or the news and eating, and you just do it because you're hungry and that's the end. But right from eating with your family or your friends, making it a social event, talk about the food, talk about why I like this food or I don't like this food, introduce people to new foods, learn how to cook. During COVID, when we were all sitting at home, I learned how to, we were limited in what we could buy. So I made my own vegan things, my own vegan cheese. I made my own vegan milks. I learned how to make it, and it became a hobby for me. Go to your grandmother's house and learn how she makes the best sabzis. Why is her bindi the best versus your friends? Brag about it to your friends. Teach your children how to cook. This morning, our 7-year-old came in and like grabbed the carrot away from me and insisted on grating it himself. And that was like the highlight of his morning. It sounds silly, but that also within pediatrics, I mean, if a child is involved in making and seeing how food is made, then they will by nature make good choices, and that carries on. So make it a community thing, make it interesting. Don't make it just something you have to do, and don't make it about, I have to have my 67 grams of carbs, my 67 grams of protein for a kilo, all of that. It becomes stressful and mechanical, and
it becomes mathematics
Exactly.
more
We
than
did
joy.
that. We used to do that.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
everyone is. I mean,
Calculating your micros and snapping pictures of your food as to how much. I'm like, it's just taking joy away from how we're meant to live and eat.
So I have a millennial son, and I have been I have gone through that journey over a long time. And I think the one thing that I would tell us as practitioners is to be patient. The other thing that I would tell this amazing generation of yours that is so, aspiring and so much into fitness and health, right? Get the right sources. Have access to a community of plant-based experts, whoever they may be. And now there are many more. Earlier, there were very few of us, and I'm so glad that we have people that we can talk to. There is an industry out there that is also trying to make honest food. So identify those, whether you're in a dorm or whether you are out in your campus, having a party. A stir fry with tofu tastes equally good with vegetables in it, and all rainbow colors. So have that access to a community. If you feel your parents are not doing the right thing, talk to your friends who are plant-based and try small ways of bringing it into your life. Eventually, this generation is all about health and fitness, and this is where it's getting you at. So you have the answer right there.
Asking this for my generation as well, if someone knows there's a family history of diabetes, if they know their parents have it or their grandparents had it, is it guaranteed that they will get it too? Does family history guarantee diabetes? Is there a way to prevent it?
Yeah, so this is again one of those topics I can go on forever, but I'll try to cut it short.
He's
In
constantly
2016,
looking.
yeah, because I know she's 2016.
He's
This is
passionate about it. So
Oh, that's
okay, yeah,
good. That's good.
You can look
We
at it like that. I'm
appreciate
very
that.
passionate. I'm
We
very passionate
appreciate
about it.
that.
2016, like brand new area of genetics came out, which was already there, but it like really bloomed because of a number of publications. It's called epigenomics. Epigenomics, till the time epigenomics became popular, we used to always think that we get our characteristics from our father and mother, and therefore if we got brown hair and lack of hair, or skin color or whatever, and that is set. But there are certain other traits that we get from our parents that are not exactly fully set. Those traits can actually move one way or the other based on our immediate environment. So I'll give you a very quick example. If I am not a big runner, which I'm not, I don't have as many mitochondria. So mitochondria are the little energy cells that use up the oxygen. When you're running, you're panting, you're using up oxygen, and those mitochondria are the ones that convert all that stuff and the glucose into energy, and that's how you can run faster. Let's say I had 50 mitochondria in each muscle of mine. The more I run, the more mitochondria I start producing. Now, my genes that I got from my parents just said I'm supposed to get 7 mitochondria, let's say.
from your mother.
Okay, mitochondria come from my mother's side. So my mother gave me 7 mitochondria, and I'm running every day. How is it that my number of mitochondria increased from 7 to 70? Genes did not dictate that. It's because of epigenomics. Epigenomics is the science where we now know that some parts of the genes can be hidden and some parts can be opened up. So it's like a code that is written, and you can read certain codes, and certain codes are like hidden, and you can make certain codes hide or open up based on your immediate environment. So Nepalese people are up in the mountains and they can run up the hill, and we cannot, with the same kind of genes. If there are twins, one twin lived in, I don't know, Trivandrum, and the other one lived in Nepal, the Nepali twin will be able to run up the hill. Same genes, because of the environment. So now that you know this, so you know that what I'm about to say is diabetes is entirely preventable. Both my parents had diabetes when they were, my mother probably like by the time she was 50 something, and her father when he was 57. I still don't have it. He had other issues like hypothyroidism, hypertension, blood pressure. I have none of the above. Okay, I've been told not to reveal my age, so I'm not going to reveal my age. But the point is, I still don't have them. And so yeah, so you can, you can do this. Anybody listening to this, you can do this. You can actually prevent chronic diseases from happening. And there are like 33 odd chronic diseases we have data on that you can actually prevent from happening in your life.
Okay.
Get rid of
So
it.
genetics does not
determine
diseases.
entirely. It determines it to a large extent. But you can make huge changes to those genes, hide some genes, open up some genes, and
But at the same time, it's the lifestyle changes
yes,
that changed everything. And it's not only food, but the other 6 pillars.
Yeah, of course. Sleep, exercise, interpersonal relationships, I'm guessing all of that. Yeah, stress, because I know stress also causes diabetes.
Because even in
Cortisol level.
even in one family, we will see that father, mother, both diabetes. There are 5 children, maybe 2 have it and 3 don't have it. So why the other 3 don't have it? So the 6
Yeah,
pillars of
no.
health,
Or maybe the
everything
keto
is
for now.
taken into consideration.
I want to start off by asking individually, what's your 3-step action plan for someone who's just diagnosed with diabetes? What's a 3-step quick action plan that you would advise anyone that has diabetes?
So the first and the foremost, you should get your, even if you're a healthy individual, get your serum insulin tested once in a year. If the serum insulin starts rising, that means the diabetes is going to knock your door in just couple of years time. So you can detect that you are prone to get diabetes way ahead of the time. By the time your sugar is already like 200 or 300, um, your insulin resistance is already high, now you are diabetes. So first and foremost, get your serum insulin always tested once in a year, so that you can detect very early in life. Secondly, get your blood sugar tested if you can. And then third is to go on to a plant-based diet straight away, to reverse the disease or to even prevent the disease. And watch your numbers every year. It should be within the range.
I'm going to take off from what she said because I don't want to try. I was thinking hard about not repeating what she said, but I still have to say 30 days, you absolutely start with giving up dairy. I know meat is also a big concern, big concern, but the biggest bang for buck you get is by dropping dairy. 30 days, you drop dairy, number one point. Number two is do some form of exercise that makes you pant. It has to make you, when you walk, and even simple walking is okay, but you have to walk in such a way that you can definitely not sing. When you're having a conversation with somebody else, it should be like like that. So you should not be able to have you should not be able to have carry out a full sentence. And third is mindfulness and sleep. So give a lot of importance to staying stress free, pay attention to things that you're doing and eating, and sleep better. Don't neglect sleep. Sleep is the biggest repairer in our body. So yeah.
Number one would be what they both mentioned, eat more plants, but I don't mean you become vegan overnight. I mean, replace things on your plate with plants, with carrots, with potatoes. Yes, you can eat potatoes when you have diabetes, with whole foods, with non-processed foods. Gradually, over time, make changes, make goals for yourself. Number two, eat more fiber. That's my favorite nutrient. We talk about it all the time. Just in whatever way you can get fiber, have more fiber. By nature, if you have more fiber, you're going to eat more plants. Fiber takes the sugar out of your, at a very simplistic way, takes the sugar out of your blood, and your insulin levels go, your blood sugar goes down. So by nature, your insulin levels also go down. And then the third one is find a good doctor that you trust, that can monitor you closely, and that can monitor for diabetes. Just doesn't affect your blood sugar. It affects your from head to toe. It affects your memory. It affects your heart. It affects your muscles. It affects your bones. It affects your kidneys, your gastrointestinal system. It affects every aspect of your body, or it could. And you need someone to monitor that. And you need someone that you can trust and tell them little symptoms you're having so you can get ahead of it. You need someone that can work with you, that you're not afraid of, that you can come to.
Because it causes dementia. As you said, there's so many side effects to having diabetes.
Yeah,
Dementia being one of them. I've seen amputated.
Yeah, it's like if you think of diabetes as, sugar in your blood, little tiny crystals, they're sharp. So they affect the smallest blood vessels of your body first. The brain, the eyes, the kidneys, they all have the smallest ones. And also like the fingers and toes, when people say they can't feel their fingers and toes.
Ooh.
Get that 30-day in first. Do not think of it as something that you want to just be cool turkey and get into any kind of ism. You first try it on yourself for 30 days. Very sincerely, proactively, get your shopping list right. Because we all are delicious foodies, and there is no harm in checking out recipes that you may love or enjoy. You can get in touch with the right resource group. And of course, when you're coming down on your blood sugar levels, you do have to have a licensed practitioner, whether it is a medical doctor and a nutritionist, in case you're not fully aware of the food groups and how things go. And of course, we at PlantRx teach many professionals. So get in touch with us and we'll pass you on to the right source.
Sure, like we also teach doctors, and we also train general public about how you can reverse your diabetes step by step, and what things you should take care of, and how the meal plans are done, how the blood sugar monitoring is done, and how we can, handhold you all the way till you are 100% out of it.
One of my last questions is, as doctors, health experts, nutritionists, what is the most convincing argument that you tell someone to go off meat and dairy in all the years, in all the experience, in all the years of your
I
experience?
think meat and dairy is too much of an effort, uh, too much of a burden on our environment, too much pain to animals, and it's not even anatomically and physiologically aligned to our needs. So why waste our energy when you get lovely apples and carrots and bananas? Just eat them. They are good for your health, good for the planet, good for the animals. Simple.
I even though I'm a data person, I know there's a psychology component that I'm appreciating more and more, especially after I went through the lifestyle medicine.
You can give me both. You can give me data, psychology.
So, but the thing is, we as human beings connect with stories. So I shamelessly, I've not given you 1/10 of the things that I tell my patients about myself in terms of how sick I was and so on. And today, what I can do, I can tell you, I can run faster, I can do push-ups faster, pull-ups faster, I can do many things. I sleep better, I don't have any issues with it, no back pain, nothing. Only because as compared to when I was, I don't know, 35 or 40, it does not happen, So giving personal stories a lot of times makes an impact on people. Then I slide into data and tell them all the data that's been existing since more than 100 years, that clearly shows that plant-based foods and a change in a lifestyle towards a healthier lifestyle can easily, if you are dedicated to it, get rid of your chronic disease, not just diabetes.
So chronic disease reversal.
Yeah,
Inverts.
absolutely.
I like to give just simple examples of populations of people, like both good and bad, how, because you can give people data and that's what we all like, but not everyone wants to hear about 37% of whatever. So like in a bad example, I guess a negative example is if dairy is so good for you, why does India have correct me if I'm wrong, one of the highest incidences of osteoporosis and arthritis in the world, if dairy is good for your bones? Milk does a body good. And then a good example on the flip side is there's a very low incidence in India of colon cancer. Why is that? Because even people that eat meat eat so many vegetables also. Yes, it comes with dairy with it and, it's processed. But overall, I mean, I don't even know. And again, sorry, this is me coming from my American background. In America, we have very stringent guidelines about when to screen for colon cancer and based on family history. But here, I don't think it's even, people don't think about it as a disease because there's so little incidence. And there's a direct correlation between more meat, less vegetables with colon cancer, amongst other things. So that's a good population study. We eat more vegetables in India, so there's less colon cancer. And then I could go on, but I would recommend everyone to look at the blue zones. These are populations around the world that traditionally eat 95% plants, and they live until almost or over 100. And they're like the best example to look at.
Japan, Singapore.
Yeah. So there's a documentary out.
Yeah.
Live
It's
to
an
100.
excellent.
Yeah. So for me, as a nutritionist, of course, I have been exposed to all form of food plants that have existed since mankind started taking more interest in health sciences. Um, I usually tell my patients that this is the most classic, sustainable, exuberant diet plan that I have ever seen. Whether it is the zone diet, the General Motors diet, the keto diet, which also gives results, the Atkins, blood diets, all through as mankind has evolved. This one is the most classic, most sustainable, and a joyful plan to be on. And it's going to stay.
So Thank you so much for all the work that you do, all the healing. I know hundreds and thousands of patients that you've cured, and all the beautiful stories that I've seen, even in the documentary that's coming out, which I do want to talk about. You've a documentary that's going to be out on YouTube soon, I believe.
Yes, real reversing diabetes, real science, real stories. Contains the stories of people who have reversed their diabetes, not just in few months or recently. Some are even 10 or 15 years ago, how they reversed and how they are beautifully thriving. So as age advances, it doesn't mean that you will have all kind of diseases and you'll die with diseases. No, you can have a very healthy disease free life, you can thrive, and you can live till 100 without any diseases, any completely celebrating your life.
Yeah, and something that I'm imagining those patients could never envision
Yes,
when
it's
they came
bringing
to you for the
hope.
first time.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, it's
they've been
bringing hope.
transformational.
Yeah,
That's very rewarding, isn't it? Most fulfilling.
yeah, it's very inspiring. And they are ordinary people who had never heard about it before. They gave it a try. They even come and ask me when my patients get better. They come and ask me, for 10 years I'm taking medication. Why did my doctor never tell me this? I never heard about it before. Is it so scientific? Everybody should know about it. So that's our purpose, is to empower people with knowledge. It's in your hand. It's no rocket science. It's simple. It's what you choose to eat every day. And you can reverse your diseases and you choose life. I can only be a guide, ins- inspiration, and motivation. That's what we can do. And India has the largest vegetarian population in the world. But unfortunately, milk is not vegetarian. Milk got green dot, but it's not vegetarian. So it's lacto vegetarian. So meat and milk have similar qualities. So that's why we have similar kind of cases of all these lifestyle related diseases, including diabetes. Milk is, of course, not vegetarian because it comes from an animal's body. If you really go and taste milk, there will be pus cells in it, there will be blood cells in it. How can that be a vegetarian? It is the best food for the baby calf, but it also has hormones in it. It has everything that is in the meat, in a way. Meat doesn't have fiber, milk doesn't have fiber. Meat is highly perishable, milk is highly perishable. It's really for the offspring and nothing else. It's not vegetarian.
I have so much gratitude for all four of you for taking the time out to have this conversation with me, but also obviously beyond this for the work that each of you is doing individually, but also together as a collective. And as I said, for healing so many lives and transforming so many lives so people could see beyond their disease and their conditions and actually begin living again. And that is God's work. That's honestly being of true service. So thank you so much for this conversation. And I hope everyone will link the documentary and I hope everyone watches that. And whether you're diabetic or pre diabetic or just wanting to learn how to prevent diseases, this is the best way of doing that. And we'll also plug in how they can maybe reach out to you directly. Thank you so much again. Thank you for this conversation and thank you for being on the show.
Most
Thank
welcome.
you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.